If choosing your first digital product feels harder than it should, it's not because you're out of ideas. It's because you're making one mistake that quietly turns a simple product into a project you'll never finish. In a minute, I'm going to show you the decision rule that fixes that. If you're building on nights and weekends, in between work, family, dinner, and everything else, you don't have an audience yet, or you just don't feel ready, and you're trying to be practical instead of ambitious, not because you're playing small, but because you really want this to work, then this video was made especially for you. By the end of this video, you're going to understand something that most of the beginner advice out there skips. You'll know how to tell the difference between an idea that sounds like a good first product and an idea that's actually safe to build first. And it's not based on trends or what other creators are doing, but based on how much the product asks of you and of your buyer. Now, if you watched my last video about running a small willingness to pay test, this is how you decide what's safe to test first. Once you see this distinction, you can't unsee it. All right, but before we move on, quick note. If you want realistic step-by-step help building digital products without hyper hustle, please subscribe to this channel so that you can find your way back. I post one focused video a week, I read every comment, and I use real questions that people ask to shape what I teach next. Now here's what I see happen over and over again. Someone finally decides, okay, I'm going to try to sell something online. They sit down with their notebook or a blank Google Doc and they ask themselves one question: what should I sell? And immediately their brain jumps to the biggest version of the idea, an online course, a system, the thing that finally explains everything they know on this given topic. And that feels responsible. It feels like you're doing it the right way. But that's also where things quietly start to break down, because now, without even realizing it, you're trying to decide what the topic is, who it's for, how much to include, how do I teach it, how do I price it, how do I explain why it matters, all before you've made a single sale. That's not a motivation problem, that's overload. Most first digital products don't fail because the idea is bad. They fail because the idea asks too much of the person building it. It asks you to be clear before you're clear, to teach before you trust yourself, to show up before you even know if this whole thing's going to work. But beginners don't recognize that as risk. They just think, well, I guess this is what building a business feels like. So they push harder, they overthink, they tweak, they stall, and months go by without a sale. And when people hear the word risk, they usually think about money. But money is rarely the real risk with your first product. The real risk is dependency. Every digital product depends on something in order to sell. So the question isn't, is this a good idea? The question is, what does this idea depend on? Some products depend on you teaching live. Some depend on people already trusting you. Some depend on confidence you don't feel yet. Some depend on visibility you don't have yet. The more your product depends on you, the harder it is to sell as your first one. Now, this is the part most beginner advice skips. The problem isn't that your idea is too big. The problem is that it asks your buyer to make too many commitments at once. Think about what a course asks someone to do. They have to decide to trust you. They have to believe in themselves to follow through. They have to forecast future motivation and commit time they don't have yet. That's a heavy lift, especially for a first product, and especially when you don't have an audience yet. A first product shouldn't feel like asking someone to marry you. It should feel like asking, do you want to grab some coffee? One decision, low pressure. That's an easy yes. Courses and big systems, those are marriages. Templates, checklists, and simple solutions, that's coffee. Now, this is where my advice to sell boring digital products can accidentally send people off in the wrong direction, because you can build something boring and still inadvertently make it very risky. A boring course is still a course. A boring membership still requires momentum, and a boring system still asks the buyer to change how they think. So boring isn't the only deciding factor for which product to build. The number of dependencies it has, that's the missing piece. Now let's walk through an example together so you can see this in action. Say you're in the nutrition niche and you say, okay, I'm going to create a meal planning digital product. Now, a risky version of this would be something like, I'm going to help busy moms develop a healthy eating plan for their family. That sounds helpful. That sounds thoughtful. It even sounds like something people want. But look at what it depends on happening. They have to believe this will work for them. They have to change their existing habits. They have to stay motivated. They have to trust in your system. And they have to keep going when life gets busy. That's a lot of commitments. Now compare that to a safe first product in the same space. A simple weekly meal planning template that helps someone answer one question. What are we eating this week so I don't have to think about this every night at 5 o'clock? That product doesn't ask for motivation. It doesn't ask for belief. It doesn't ask for long-term change. It asks for one decision, one time. That's the difference. Same topic, radically different commitment load. All right, let's look at another example. Urban gardening. A risky first product would be something like everything you need to know to grow your own food in the city. That sounds impressive. It also sounds exhausting. A safer first product would be a simple checklist for what to plant first in a small raised bed based on how much sun you get. That solves one moment of friction for someone. It's not a whole lifestyle, it's just the next step. And here's something I really want to normalize, because I've said before that your product ideas often come from what people ask you about. But I don't want you to take that literally, like someone has to come up to you and ask you directly for your help. A lot of the best ideas don't show up as direct requests. They show up as patterns you notice in everyday life. It's the same question that keeps popping up in your Facebook group. It's the same complaint you hear the parents make while they're waiting for dance class to end. The thing you solved for yourself and then started noticing other people are struggling with the exact same way you did. That all counts, because then you're not guessing. You're not making things up. You're paying attention. And that's often where the safest first product ideas come from. So here's the one rule. This is the filter you run every idea through. When you're deciding what to build first, ask, does this solve one moment? Or does this require a lifestyle change? Meal planning template that answers what's for dinner this week? That's one moment. A complete system that changes how someone eats forever? That's a lifestyle change. A first product should solve one moment, require one decision, deliver one outcome in one sitting. If it asks for a new mindset, a new routine, or ongoing effort, it might be a fantastic product. It's just not your first one. And that distinction will save you months. Building your first digital product is a lot like walking into Costco hungry. Everything looks like a good idea. Family-sized bundles and value packs, but if you try to buy for the next 6 months all at once, you're going to end up overwhelmed, exhausted, and with food that spoils before you could ever eat it. A first product isn't the bulk purchase. It's grabbing the hot dog on your way out the door. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I get it, but I'm still not sure what my first product should be, I put together a free guide called 10 Digital Products You Can Create This Weekend. It's not a list to overwhelm you. It's meant to help you spot the kind of small, low-commitment products that we just talked about, using things you already know. And it's linked down below if you want something concrete to look at after this video. Now, your first product isn't meant to capture everything you know. It's meant to reduce risk and create momentum. Once you've made one sale, clarity comes faster, your confidence builds naturally, and the bigger ideas now have somewhere safe to land. You don't need to be impressive yet. You just need to be useful once. So, once you have a product like this, the next challenge is how to sell it without posting every day or overthinking everything. That's exactly what I walk through in How to Market Boring Digital Products. Watch that video next, and if you're stuck deciding what to build, leave a comment down below and tell me where you're hesitating. I read every single comment, and I build future videos around real questions. All right, here's to your success, and I'll see you next week. If this saved you time or gave you clarity, please hit like and subscribe. I've got a lot more videos coming, and they're all made with you in mind.